If you've ever been caregiving and wondering, why is it that I feel like I'm the one that's unraveling and falling apart? Well, today's session is going to be just for you. We're going to talk about how you can find places where you don't unravel, but you stay together, and how to function as a caregiver without losing yourself.
Welcome to Grace to Care. Take a breath, pull up a chair, little laugh, little truth to share with Grace to Care. Together for the ones who hold it off through the late calls.
Welcome to Grace to Care. I'm Ferne Sapp.
And I'm Jessica Banner, and we're here having conversations on the grief, grit, and gift of caregiving.
Reminding you that in caregiving, you're never meant to walk alone, because we are Grace to Care. Well, listen, we're so glad that you joined us back again on today. There are literally these moments in every caregiver's life when we are trying to handle everything. I mean, we're handling appointments, we're getting all the medications together. We're just trying to be strong out here. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I found out, Jessica, is that there's this moment where we start wondering, does anybody hear us? Can anybody hear us? I mean, really?
Yeah, it's kind of like the echo chamber, right? Like when you get so in the tasks, people start feeling further and further and further away. And, you know, it's like we kind of talked about before, where you can get busy in the tasks, but it can feel like, am I starting to lose myself?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, sometimes we show up and we're functioning, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
you know, we're functioning well. We look good. But there's a difference between functioning and really being stable, because the reality is that you can be productive, but really be unraveling, really be, you know, just this place where we're just like falling apart. And the danger isn't that you'll quit and you'll give up. The danger is that we lose ourselves in the process. And that's where we have to be conscious and careful.
Yeah, with my clients, I call it the difference between surviving and thriving. And in caregiving, you're going to have seasons of both. Yeah. There are going to be times you feel like you're surviving. And there's going to be times you feel like, I've got this under my belt and I'm thriving more. Yeah. But you will experience both during that season for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things we have to help the caregiver understand and come to know what stability really looks like, because stability looks different in caregiving.
Right. Absolutely. You know, because caregivers rarely dramatically collapse, right? It's more like this slow erosion over time, right? You may notice your sleep's getting more inconsistent, your meal prep and eating is getting more inconsistent, your mood is fluctuating. You might start feeling more apathetic, not empathetic. You may be empathetic too, but apathetic. You may find that you're more frustrated easily, angry more often, or you might just start feeling more hollow or more empty, you know, as you go along. And so for me, that looked like crying at night, crying myself to sleep, right? Or it meant literally screaming at the walls of my car when it was really bad. I remember getting in my car, driving down the road, having conversations with God, and I was screaming. Nobody's heard me scream like that in my life, right? Except the walls of my car. Yeah. But that was real in the hard spots, and when I was really just feeling so detached from myself and my own life. Yeah.
And you know, that's what this is about. That's what our conversations are about being real. I mean, you and I were talking, and I shared with you just yesterday, like literally just yesterday, I was screaming, you know, with Willie. You know, he waking me up at the wee hours of the morning, and I'm trying to get the belt, and you all have worked with it, and you're trying to get that belt on, and I am exhausted, right? I'm literally like sleepy, and that belt slips, and I'm just screaming like, you gotta help, you gotta, you know, just like falling apart. And we have to be able to recognize, because after we came out, I was like, you know what? I'm unraveling. And that's what today is about. Today is about really giving yourself this permission. I know we've all been in school before, right? Yep. Kindergarten, 8th grade, high school. If you were a minor, one of your parents had to sign that permission slip, right? To give you permission to go on that field trip. And that's what today, we're going to sign the permission slip. And so today you have permission to say, I am overwhelmed. You have permission to say today, I need support. You have permission to say on today that I'm tired too. It's okay. So today we're signing the permission slip because sometimes it's most stabilizing is really about being able to tell ourselves the truth.
It is. When I think about permission, I was thinking about how when you're caregiving, you're living in such a hypervigilant state. And it can feel like if one ball drops, the whole thing is going to come undone. And so we don't often give ourselves permission to make room for ourselves. But the reality is, if I don't make room for myself, if I don't make sure I'm stable, because it's going to fluctuate. You're not going to be unstable all the time, but there may be moments when it happens because, like we said before, we have many areas of our life we're still operating in, right? And so stability doesn't always mean everything's calm. It doesn't always mean everything feels good. You may not even feel happy all the time, but stability can look like, am I able to take a pause? Did I ask somebody for help? Did I have an honest conversation with myself and say, I can't do it all right now, or I really do have to take a break and I've got to figure out and probably not by myself. Figure out, what do I need right now? Because I can't care for others. It's that thing. If I've got holes in my boat, how can I bail out your boat? Right. And so we have to patch our boat sometimes, even in the middle of caregiving. And that's important.
I found out that there were a few areas, and we're going to talk about those areas. There were a few areas that when I knew that these were areas that I need to be conscious of stabilizing myself of, then I could actually take real action. And I love what you said, Jess, that this is not about, being perfect, because that's something that can really hinder the caregiver is if you have that place and state where we want everything to be perfect, everything's not going to be perfect. No. And so we have to come to the place. But when I realized that there were these three areas, right, that we had to get stable in, now I'm very conscious of them. And so even at the screaming yesterday, I was like, whoa, that's because we're missing one of those areas. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first area, let's talking about stabilizing the body, right? Because in that hypervigilance, your brain is actually wired. You have your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. And that parasympathetic nervous system is what gets activated when your body is reading, I'm in crisis, right? It's that fight or flight, that famous. And what a lot of people don't know is you have lots of hormones dumping. People know my heart's racing and I feel like I'm coming out of my skin, but it also shuts down your prefrontal cortex, your thinker, right? At the front of your brain. And so stress dysregulates the body in a lot of ways. And it's because there's rapid hormone changes because your body's preparing to protect you. And so we do need to pay attention to things like our sleep and how we're eating, and because those are things that can help regulate a little bit, help our body. I always tell people, I know it feels crazy because you may be so exhausted, but go get some exercise, because what it does is it almost allows kind of that chemical dump where all that hypervigilance has been activating the brain. You've got all this extra chemical, the cortisol and the adrenaline running through your body. And so when you go exercise, it's kind of a release of some of those things. And you don't have to you may hit the gym and you may be a CrossFit person, but you can also just go for a walk, do something simple. So you don't want to ignore it.
For me, it was really understanding how my body was working. And one of the things that happened, and we're going to share with you things that happened to us personally. Hey, listen, we're not physicians, right? We're going to tell you about some things that helped us personally as well. But we want to make sure that you understand you need to consult with your physician. We've got several resources on our website at grace2care.com. And so you can go there and pull some of those professional resources that can help you. But one of the things that happened with me is that my A1C had jumped up. I was at 10, 11. And the pounds were just packing on. I just could not, get my body, regulated enough, even down to the fact where my back, everything was just out of alignment. My whole body was out of alignment. And I finally said, okay, I cannot function like this.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot function like this. And I went and I found out some very simple things. I remember going to meet with the team and they said, there are 4 things I want you to focus on. I was like, okay. I mean, there were simple things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first thing is stay away from excessive smoking and drinking. I was like, oh, wow. You mean tell me I can't smoke and drink? No. But it was like, stay away from excessive smoking and drinking.
Right.
I was like, okay, check, got that.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing was like, you got to change the way that you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
You got to change the way that you're eating. And so I actually got with a nutritionist and got a plan. Now, here's the thing I want to just put in this plug for you to know, because remember, we're all about sharing with you and helping. But I found out that my insurance covered all of that. So you can get on, I don't know what insurance you have, but check, because my insurance had a total health program. And so I was able to go in, talk to the nutritionist, get a full laid out plan, talk to the PharmD, find out what was going on with the medications I was taking. And then the third thing that they said to me was to do something every day, as you shared, doing some type of activity. I didn't have to be in full blown exercise mode. And I was so glad to hear that, because I don't know about you, but I hardly had time to come and get on the exercise. And it's like, you don't have to get in full blown exercise mode. But here was the last one that really got me, Jess. And he said, you got to go to sleep. You have to go to sleep. I was like, what? When, where, and how? Yep. But he began to show me that if you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night, then your body does not know how to stabilize. Right. Your cortisol levels are through the roof, right? He just started kind of going through some of my numbers and everything. And when I realized that, I was like, wow. But here's where he helped me at. He says, this is what I want you to do. Don't focus on the 7 to 8 hours, right? He says, you normally get 4 hours. I just want you to get 5 hours for me this week. And then when you get those 5, I want you to connect back with me. And then he says, now I want you to get 6. And he just literally scaled me up to getting 8 hours. And I found out then that my A1C went down, right? Jumped all the way down to, like, at that point, jumped down to 7, which was good. Of course, we're down even further now. But I realized that, there were things that I had to do. Now I have to be transparent. And I have to tell you that the sleep one is the worst one for me. So I'm working on getting back to the 8 hours. But as caregivers, that's a way that we can stabilize our bodies.
Well, and in listening to you talk, one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that you didn't do those things alone. Because if we're really honest, food and sleep and movement are 3 of the easiest things to sacrifice as caregivers.
Oh, yes.
When we are in the middle of caregiving and tasks and trying to switch roles, it is easy. Those are the 3 easiest things to let slip through the cracks. And what I heard you say is, in each of those areas, you worked with a person to get information. And you worked with people who said, let me help you be a little bit accountable to taking care of you. Because accountability is key. And I don't mean like getting on you and someone being strict, but someone who loves you enough, who says, I'm willing to hold that space for you. Get that hour and check back with me. Right? That person that says, these things are worth fighting for. Do I have that person that's saying, did you eat today? Did you grab the meal? Hey, did you take that 15-minute walk? Like, it's little things, but those little things are huge for your body. Because if you're not getting that sleep, your body doesn't repair itself.
That's true.
Right. And that's where it handles the cortisol and all your cellular repair. It is not uncommon for caregivers, for their own bodies to start breaking down because we've ignored them in the process.
It's also important too, you talk about, being honest and truthful, but it's also important to stabilize your emotions, stabilize our emotions, right?
Absolutely.
Who can hear the full truth, or who can you hear the full truth from? There were people in my life that I had to realize they were telling me the truth. Calm down. You cannot do everything. You cannot do everything. Right. And there were people who were there to help me with that so that I can get my emotions in check. And here's the thing. Sometimes getting your emotions in check is realizing that they're out of check. And it takes the person around you, right? To say, you're out of whack. Your emotions are out of whack. And it's okay to even get professional care in that area, right? I found out that, yes, I needed some form of counseling to be able to dump some of it off somewhere else, right? Because here's the thing. I know you'll say this, Miss Counselor. If we don't dump it in the right places, we'll dump it on the care recipient.
Unfortunately, that can be true. And even if you weren't a caregiver, that would be true, right? We take it out on the people at home most often, right? And so it is super important to stabilize emotion. And I used to tell people, if we stuff all this stuff in the closet, you're going to open that door and it's all going to come tumbling out. And what that looks like practically in real life is, I always tell people, it comes out sideways, right? And what that means is, you may not be exhibiting high emotion, but you may start having all kinds of physical ailments, right? Or you might start having more headaches, more stomach aches, that kind of thing. Or you are having extreme mood swings, or you really are heading into compassion fatigue because you're not dealing with the emotion. And that's why I love why we created our affirmation journal. Because we talked about that a little bit the other day about how, it's a place just to process. Journaling was huge for me personally. It helped me start my day well. It helped me reorganize my thoughts at night, because night was hard in caregiving for me, because it was the place after I got everybody in bed. Right. Everybody's tucked away, knowing that there could still be issues in the middle of the night. But that moment when all got quiet, it would all come flooding in, and what do I need, or where's my exhaustion, or that kind of thing. And so I also shared, I've been I was in counseling the entire time that I was caregiving. And that was necessary because on top of caregiving, we had a lot of family dynamics, and I'm a counselor. So I was taking care of other people and doing ministry at the same time. And so I just needed a space and someone that I could talk to, help me sort it through. But there's lots of ways to process emotions. I think the key is, we as a culture, I always tell my clients this, we are emotion word deficient. If I handed you a feelings wheel right now, you'd know every word on it. You'd know what each of them meant. But one of the things we don't do well is we don't express with emotional language. That's one of the things I teach my clients right out of the gate is we have not really been trained to process with emotional language.
Wow.
And so I tell everybody, I'm famous for the feeling wheel. Get it on, print it, you can get it on Google. Real easy, but put it places, use that language, because we use the happy, sad, glad, mad. But it's a whole lot different when I say I'm exhausted or I feel betrayed. Or I feel so disturbed by this. That gives language that gives a whole different outlet to what you're actually walking through, because it has more meaning. And so have safe people to talk to. Not everybody's safe, right? My core group got to be about 2 to 3 people in those years of caregiving. They were my ride or dies, right? They walked it out. Professional help. You may have pastoral or help, and maybe community help, right? Like the dietitian and your doctor were part of that team. So and it's okay to check if I need help. Check in with your doctors. Do I need some help with this? How does it sound to you? Ask a friend, where do you feel like I'm at? Because I will tell you, the people who love you got your blind spots.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're in that space where you can't even slow down enough to see it some of the time.
To see it yourself, right? To see it yourself. You talk about the affirmation journal. So if you all have not already gotten your copy of it, we want to encourage you to go onto the website and get your copy of the affirmation journal. Because here's one of the things that I found out. My emotions were unstable when my day was dictated to me. And so what I felt is when I was waking up in the morning, you wake up and you hit the ground running and you got to get breakfast. You got to get everybody, bathe, and you got to get the medications. And so my emotions were off track because I was not commanding and affirming my morning and my day. And so that affirmation journal can really help you to affirm where you're at, right? It's 52 weeks. So every week you start out with one affirmation. And after you've written that, you can spend every day, every morning, right? Just really affirming that declaration, but also writing out some of how you feel, right? Some of how you feel. And we're going to put that feeling wheel on the website as well.
I was thinking that when you said that.
We're going to put that out there so that you all can get it. But let's talk about this last area. We've been alluded to it, but it's also just stabilizing through partnerships. Through partnerships. Let's talk about that some.
Yeah, because caregiving is not a solo act. It can feel like it, right? Especially if you're the primary caregiver. It can certainly feel like that at times. But even when you are the primary caregiver, you shouldn't carry all the emotional weight.
Yeah.
And again, everybody's in different family dynamics. You may have a super supportive family, and you may be a little more on your own in some capacity, but family can include friends. You know, family can include people from your religious organizations, your churches, maybe your small groups, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, and there's professional resources too to provide respite, but we definitely want to look at who's in your circle, right? Who are those people, and be intentional to identify them, and who shares the decision making. You know, for me, that was huge with my grandparents, because my aunt and my cousin and I, we kind of split the work in a lot of ways. I lived there, so I handled the overnight stuff and that kind of thing, and my aunt handled more of the any kind of paperwork, and she did a lot. We split up doctor's appointments depending on who was where with what, and but my cousin was home with her kids because they were really little at the time. So if something really critical happened during the day, my aunt and I were working, right? So she would kind of pop over there and handle that. But I don't know what we would have done. You know, I was really fortunate to have a debrief. We had lots of debriefing, which also helped that processing piece a lot.
I love it, because that's what partnership really looks like. It looks like dividing up those responsibilities. And again, we've got an amazing tool out there for you on our website that you can go and download it. And it helps you to decide who's going to be at what appointments, what the schedules look like. So you're able to have access to that. You know, it also might look like, you know, scheduling these consistent check-ins where, you know, people know that they check in on X days and see how things are going. It could even look like, watch this, saying it's okay for somebody who calls and says, "Hey, can I help you?" Yes. Right?
Yes, you can.
Yes. Can I bring something over to eat? Yes. You know, it's okay to say yes, because those are partnerships that you do need, so that you are able to not carry the load alone.
But can I say something about that? Because I actually teach people on the other side, when you're helping somebody, don't just say, "What can I do for you?" Like if you're a friend or somebody who is a caregiver, ask if you can do a specific task, because that really helps the mental load for a caregiver. But as a caregiver, knowing that people may ask, it may help if you kind of keep those 3 or 4 things that you know it would really help if somebody else did. So when people ask, you can just go, "Yep, I need that."
That's good.
And so it's important on both sides of the fence. Have those couple tasks you know you can give away to someone else if they want to help. But if you are asking a caregiver, ask specifically, "Can I do A for you or B for you?"
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because that can be really helpful.
Yes. You know, today, of course, you know, people are probably saying, okay, you know, where do I go from here? You know, what do I do and where do I go from here? I think it's important to, first of all, recognize, am I functioning, but I'm not steady, right? Come to that place where you recognize that. And if you say, yes, that's me, don't try to fix everything, right? Don't try to fix everything. Stabilize one thing, right? It may be something as simple as go to bed earlier. Sometimes I have to tell myself, lay down. I have to treat myself sometimes like that 2-year-old where you keep saying, lay down. Go to bed earlier. It might be making the one phone call and just sharing, "Hey, listen, this is really what I do need and how I need it." It might be, "Hey, following us, get onto the website and follow so that you can find some places and spaces where you can tap into resources and get the things that you know." But understand that stability grows incrementally. So we're not asking you on today to try to get everything stable at once, because that'll get you unstable. Understand that it happens incrementally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and caregivers often feel like no one is listening, right? So let's say this clearly. We want to hear from you. Your exhaustion's not dramatic, right? Your frustration is not disloyal to your caregiver and your family. Your tears aren't weakness. They're just the emotion coming out, right?
Yes.
Your anger, your frustration, emptiness, compassion fatigue, none of those says anything about your character. It just says my body and my mind are telling me I have needs right now. Right?
You know, as we close out on today, if no one asks you, Today, we're going to ask you, how are you doing? That matters to us on today. Are you at this place where you say, you know what? I'm functioning, but I'm really a little off kilter. I'm really a little bit unstable. We want you to know on today, we hear you. And not only do we hear you, we're hoping that you've heard us on today. And there are things that can help you to really become stabilized in your body, stabilized in your emotions, and stabilized in your partnerships so that you don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely.
Well, Jessica, it's been great. We've had an amazing time here today. And listen, you've been listening to Grace to Care with Ferne
and Jessica Banner.
And we're here to remind you that every story says you don't have to carry this alone, because we've been graced to care
together.
Have an amazing time, and we'll see you back here soon.
In caregiving, you're never meant to walk alone. We're graced to care together.